Welcome to It Is What It Is, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Shaw Marie. Has everyone missed me? It's been like 2 weeks, but I'm back. It took me forever. It was not meant to be a 2-week. But the case that I did not think that I would invest as much time into it as I did. But I did, obviously. So, the case that I got from a fan, and I call her M. I don't use people's names unless they let me, and I just don't use names. Anywho, she's from Ohio, and I'm confused on whether I'm supposed to like Ohio or despise Ohio. Nothing against like everybody in Ohio, but like the laws and stuff of Ohio, I don't think I'm cool with. If I ever in a million years want to harm a child of any age, I think I'm going to go to Ohio. Because everybody in Ohio, at least the people I've been asked to look up so far, and all you Ohio people are like, what are you talking about? We have Jeffrey Dahmer and blah blah blah. Ugh, y'all. And okay, before I even say her name, I'm gonna say her name like a complete dick, because I hate this name. I know the person with this name. Well, I know two people. One of them, Dredger. Other one, ugh. You just can't wait for the bus from Mean Girls to run her over. And I just don't like her. And she's made me hate the name forever. But anyway, so I kind of say it like a dick. But, so I'm going to review and tell everyone else in the world who doesn't know about this case, all you Ohio people, don't hate me. Like I said, I did not go looking for this person. Her name is Brooke Skylar Richardson. Okay. And originally I was like, oh wow, I've never heard of her. And then I read the title of a news article, and I was like, that's why I've never heard of her. But then I went to the good old fashioned YouTube, right? Because that's where I go for all of my stuff. And to watch the documentaries and anything any YouTubers made. And I find that I can watch the entire court process. And so I started, and I didn't read the full description of it. Well, it says day 1. And so in my sweet little head, I was like, okay, day 1, how long can this trial be? 6 days. So, and I only can listen to it at night while I'm at work. So, yeah, sorry. My children don't let me listen to podcasts during the day in peace. So I watched the entire court process. So before anybody jumps on me about how I feel about this, and mind you, this is my opinion, and I will say that again, the Richardsons cannot sue me because this is my opinion and what I believe and what I think. Anywho, so don't hate on me and be like, you don't know, you should watch the court. I did. From very beginning to hello to 6 days later when we say goodbye. So I did. All of it. Didn't miss a second. Not a second. So, for everybody who's like, well, what did this disgusting person do? I'm going to tell you. So, Brooke, and I think we might just call her Skylar like everybody else. I think everybody else calls her Skylar because they know that name is not the good name. If you're named that name, I probably like you. But one bad seed. Anyhow, so she, like I said, is from Ohio. And she starts dating this kid named Trey Johnson in August of 2016. And they dick down on 2 accounts. And one of the accounts, we're young and we're dumb and we're full of cum and we don't use protection. And so we just don't, okay? And then we break up with him afterward. We're like, fuck this guy. We block him on everything. We don't want to be his friend. And then we find another gentleman caller. And this gentleman caller is the perfect boy that you fall deeply, deeply and madly in love with. She does. And so her mom, which we'll get there, is like, okay, well, you guys are doing adult actions, so I'm going to need you to get on the birth control. And it was a mutual conversation, you know. And so the mom made the appointment. She's 18. And I'm going to call her Skylar. Everybody calls her Skylar. So Skylar goes, right? And before she goes, she tells her mom at one point in time, she's like, I don't want to go. I changed my mind. And the mom's like, girl, it's your first appointment. Nobody wants to go get put on birth control. Nobody wants to go to the OBGYN voluntarily. It's not fun. So her mom tells her all of this. She's like, dude, it's going to be fast. If you don't want him to do the examination, you don't have to the first go around, which is true. So anyway, she's like, okay, fine, I'll go. Well, when she gets to Dr. William Andrews' office, she goes back. She goes into the room. And the nurse is like, this girl is losing her mind. She's obviously she's very nervous and anxious is what she comes off to be. And so she makes a mental note of it. She's like, jot that down. And then the doctor comes to go in, and the nurse is like, just so you know, honey in there is just nervous as hell. And so the doctor's like, okay, great. And now I know I will handle this appropriately. And he's like, what is she here for? And the nurse is like, birth control. And he's like, okay, cool. Call it in. Let's get this rapido. Call it in. And the nurse does. So anywho, he goes in there and he talks to her and he's like, well, what are you here for? They do the whole spiel. I'm here for the birth control. I have sexual relations. The whole thing. And he's like, okay. Well, before I can give you the birth control, which I'm going to give you because you're 18 years old, you have voiced that like you're not very sexually active, so I'm assuming that the pregnancy test we're about to do will be fine. And she's like, okay. And so she goes and she does it. Right? Well, she leaves. And her mom's like, well, how was it, honey? Because her mom was in the lobby. And she's like, it was great. Oh, it was fine. It was great. It was fine. Get my stuff later. And then the mom gets an email, right? And it says positive pregnancy PT or something, some shit. It's an email saying that her test from that P test was a positive pregnancy test. And so the mom's like, are you at fucking school? They don't cuss. And she's like, yeah, why? I just got here. And her mom's like, sends her a screenshot. And she's like, what is this? And Skylar's like, I have no idea. I'll call him later. The mom's like, the fuck you will call him later. You're going to call him right meow. Anyhow. So she tells her mom. She's like, Mom, it was a miscommunication. I don't know. And the mom's like, whew. Girl, I was worried because that will end your life. You will not go to college. You will not have anything. You will be a single mom who has nothing. Who's going to take care of your baby? And like she just goes on and on. Constant message after text message. Like this is good. That would be the worst possible thing that could ever happen to you is a being with child. And Skylar tells her mom, she's like, no, mom, I'm losing weight and everything, because she has an eating disorder. And so she does, her weight goes up and down. And she's like, Mom, I'm losing weight. I'm getting ready for prom. It's prom week. Let's have a good week. So her mom's like, okay, yeah, they send out wrong emails with patients' names and everything else, even though I think it's her sister works there. Anywho. So she's like, this happens all the time. It's fine. So then, on May 5th, she goes to prom. She has a swell time. And then she goes to a baseball game with her boyfriend and her parents. And at prom, her period started. Oh no. Well, that's what she tells Brandon. That's his name, the boyfriend's name. She's like, oh, Aunt Flo came. I almost called her Mary Jane. Aunt Flo came. Bummer. And she's like, oh, I'm having really bad cramps. And so he holds her hand all night. He rubs her back. And he's like, okay, he takes her home. She goes in home, puts a heating pad on these menstrual crampies. Next morning, he's like, oh, girl, I know you don't feel good. We don't have to go through with the plans for the birthday. And that was going to the game. And she's like, no, honey, it's fine. I'll be fine. I can go. I'm fine. And she, cramping the whole time. It was a horrible situation. That's May 5th. Well, about 36 hours later, something happens in the middle of the night. Okay? Something happens. And then May 8th comes, okay? So May 7th, I tell you something happens in the middle of the night. May 8th comes, and she sends her mother the following text message. I am literally speechless with how happy I am. My belly is back. OMG. I am never, ever letting it get like this ever again. You're about to see me freaking better than ever before. OMG. And everybody hates on her mom. I'll explain why I don't really hate on her mom. Anyway, so then July 12th comes. We're about 2 months later down the road. Our birth control is out, so we have to go back. Meanwhile, we get to there, to the doctor's office. And I'm assuming she knows that something is amiss in the doctor's office. And the same nurse is gonna, it's like a doctor's office where you see different doctors. You can request the same doctor, but like if you don't pick a doctor, you'll just see a different doctor every time. So she gets a different doctor that time, but the same nurse. And so the nurse goes back and she tells the doctor from before. She goes, hey, that Brooke chick is back. And you're asking, well, why the fuck does that even matter? Well, then the new doctor, who's a female doctor, goes in the room and she's like, hi, how are you? What are you here for? And Skylar says, I'm here for my birth control. And that doctor says, well, my colleague told me that last time you were here, you had a positive pregnancy test. And when he did an ultrasound on you, you were 32 weeks with child. Where'd your baby go? What happened? Where'd it go? Because my colleague tried multiple times to call you to get you to come back into the office so that we can start your prenatal care. So where's your baby? Skylar starts crying. A very obnoxious, ugly cry, may I add. And she tells her, well, back on May 7th, I had my baby in the middle of the night in my room while my whole family was in the house. My baby came out dead. So I took her to the garage, grabbed my mama's shovel, took her to the bush, put her 2 feet down, put a pot on top of her, went back inside my home, cleaned it up, go on about my day. And then the text message the next day. So, all of you are like, what? Did I hear her correctly? You did. She went 9 months with no one noticing that she was pregnant. It's up for debate, 9 or 8. And then she gives birth in the same hallway area as her brother. He doesn't hear anything. So, first of all, any person who's given birth, I hope you feel like a punk like I did. 'Cause there's no way I could have done that shit quietly. No. But I'll give you both sides of the argument. So anyway, she leaves the doctor's office. The doctor's like, I'm sorry, come again? And she's like, yeah, that's what happened. Gotta go, bye. And she leaves and she gets her refill. And because the doctor before he went to cancel the prescription, right? It had already gone through, whatever. So she was taking the birth control while being pregnant, knowing that she was pregnant. And when he tells her, and he goes back in the room on May 7th, and he's like, oh, dude, I can't give you the birth control because, you're with child. She starts crying, and she's like, you can't tell anybody. I cannot have this baby. I cannot have this baby. And he's like, girl, you need to tell somebody because you having a baby. These things don't just not happen because you don't want them to happen. It's gonna happen. And you are very, very, very far along. So you need to get some support in some way, shape, or form. So, they call the police because they are like, I'm sorry, she what? And so the cops go to her house and they're like, hey, we need to talk to your daughter, to her dad. And the dad's like, okay. They go and he's like, well, she's at her grandma's house with her brother, whatever, swimming. Let me give her a jingle, she'll be on her way. So he does, and she does. She comes, and they're like, okay, let's go to the police station so we can talk about this. And they take her in the room, and they're like, so this is what happened. We got this call. Is this true? Yes or no? And she starts crying. And they find her sweet little baby's skeleton remains behind the home on July 14th. And the parents, right, do not know why they're there. Or what is happening? Because they are getting text messages and stuff like that from the neighbors and everything. And they're like, oh my God, the police are at y'all's house. Y'all okay? All that stuff. And there's crime scene tape and all sorts of craziness. What's going on? Well, the poor parents at the time. The officer goes out and he's like, okay, well, we've talked to her. We've confirmed it. So what we're actually doing at your house is your daughter had a baby in the middle of the night. It was, according to your daughter, dead upon arrival. So she buried it in the backyard. We gotta go get it. Okay? Okay. Could you imagine being her fucking parents and being like, I am so sorry. What? A who? A baby. My baby had a baby. Huh? But she did. And so she tells the cops that she was cramping and that she went into the bathroom, sat upon the toilet, and a baby fell out. That's not funny. But could you just imagine going to the bathroom and a human being just right out? My mind was blown. And so she starts telling them, she's like, I didn't want this baby. I didn't know what to do with the baby, but I had the baby, so I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell anybody. My parents are going to be so mad at me. I didn't want my boyfriend to be mad at me. I don't want to lose my boyfriend. I love my boyfriend. All of this crazy shit. And so they're like, okay, tell your parents. And so at court, they made a big deal about the parents didn't know that they were being recorded with her when they went into the interrogation room. Either you want the world to believe that you are as dumb as your daughter, and I do not feel bad about saying that, or y'all just, I don't even know. Like, that's the only option, really. It is. Anywho. So, then she tells the parents, like I said, and they freak out, obviously. And they're like, the dad, I think, is like much sweeter than the mom. And mind you, I do not know these people. And I did watch 48 Hours episode that they did just to get their side of it. And I still feel like dad was probably the, like, I don't mean this in a negative way, but like the weaker, kinder one. And like the mom was more like stern and like I run the roost kind of. And so the dad is like, oh my God, you could have told us, we would have helped you. And she was like, I just didn't know. I panicked. It came out dead and I didn't know what to do. And so they let her go. They let her go that day because they're like, we need to find out what happened. We need to go get the baby from the backyard and discover all of that. And at one point in time, even the mom was like, you ain't coming home with us. And the dad's like, yes, she is. Knock it up. Anyway, that was pretty funny. And so they go home. And then she's found. And then she goes to the coroner and all that, right? And she's bones by this time. There's only a little bit of flesh and like a fleshy piece with some hair on it. So she goes and she's wet at the time because it had rained previously. Like the bones are wet. She was only 2 feet deep because Skylar was like, I couldn't bury her deep because I hurt. Like, no shit, you hurt. You just popped out a baby in complete silence. Anyway, so she was only like 2 feet deep. Very, very, not much. So the bones were wet. And so when the police and them get the bones, they go to her or whatever, because the bones are wet, from what I understand, that's why it did this, a part of the bones were a darker color. And so at the time, they said, this baby's bones have been burnt. And so the police take that And they go back and they call Skylar's dad and they say, hey, bring her back in. We have some more questions. She's not in trouble. Bring her back. And so they're like, yeah, okay. Still no lawyer, nothing. She has been read her rights and all of that. And she goes and they sit her down and they're like, okay, you're not telling us the truth, not the whole truth. So help you God, you are not. We know you're not, because the people who got the bones said the bones are burnt. And I give her this. She is completely shocked. She's like, what? Burn? What? I didn't burn my baby. And she keeps saying that. 17 times, in fact, she said she did not burn that baby. And they're like, but you did. And so finally, she's like, yeah, okay, I did. Maybe a little bit. I put a lighter to its foot. The flames went up to its chest. I panicked, put the flames out, couldn't do it because I knew it was wrong. And then that's what happened. And she keeps asking, am I going to jail? Have I done something wrong? Am I in big trouble? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she does that all, and the female officer in the room, like, you can tell she's like getting annoyed. She's like I told you before, I don't know if you're going to jail yet. He left the room to go ask our boss if we're locking you up. We don't know till our boss says we can't just lock you up to lock you up. So then they come back in the room and they're like, hey, because now in the first interview, Skylar referred to her baby as it. Every time she referred to this child, she called it an it, even though she knows it was a little girl. She calls her it every time. Come the second interview, now that mom and dad and everybody else knows, her family wants the bones so that they can give, and they name her Annabelle, so that they can give Annabelle a proper burial. And so they tell her, they're like, girl, we're just trying to get Annabelle back to your family. And once we figure this out, this is the last hurdle, we get her back to you, everybody moves on. And so they're like, we didn't tell your parents anything because we can't. You're 18 years old, but you are going to jail. So do you want to talk to them later, here, but we will be in the room? Like, what do you want to do? And the female officer tells her too. She's like, and your jewelry's awfully nice. I'd give that to your mama too, because you don't want to take that to jail. And so her parents come in the room and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Because they tell her, like, she ain't leaving. Y'all can go, but she can't go. And she's like, I maybe, but I burnt the baby a little bit. And both her parents are like, the fuck? You burnt it? Well, they get another doctor's opinion, and another doctor comes in and they're like, oh no, dude, the bones were just wet. It's not burnt. It's fine. Like, the bones are fine. And the skull was in different pieces, but that is natural because babies' heads are not fused. It's not a complete skull when they're babies. That's why you have soft spots and everything else. So they arrest her, and she's arrested on like 4 charges, okay? And when they arrest her, they take her to jail. She then goes to see the judge, obviously. She gets out on bail, and then I guess it's a very long time before the police come back. Like, not the police, I shouldn't say the police, the courts come back and are like, hey, bam. But they do come back and bam her, and she goes to court. They literally do 6 days of court, and she has a good team. It's a father-son team. I guess they don't really do this often, the father and son team, but they did, and they did amazing. It was a really to see both sides, it was a really interesting thing to watch. It was really cool, kind of. I'm not going to lie. To watch all the, like, back and forth, and the state put up a good case. They really did. They really, really did. And so did her team, like I said. So it's some time later, and so they go, and it's been like 2 years, and finally the state goes to Brooke, and they're like, hey, we can do a deal. You plead guilty. I think it was like to manslaughter or something, and then this will all go away. And so she thinks about it. She thinks overnight about it, and then I lost my train of thought. Sorry. She thinks about it the next morning. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I will not do that. And I'm going to fight this because I did not burn my baby. So then they go to the court, and the state is saying that, okay, she may not have burnt her baby, but she did not let us, the state, the mortician's office, everybody else, have the opportunity to see this baby and to know that for ourselves. We don't know. We know for sure that we have an 18-year-old girl in front of us who did not want this baby, who kept this baby completely secret from everyone and everything. And so, you know, like, it's her fault. And so her team is like, this baby was small in size, and it was a stillbirth. That's why the baby came out so fast. And it was not fast. Everybody kept acting like this was a fast labor. She was in labor for 36 hours. We go to prom. We go to a game. Like, we had that whole entire time to say something, to do something about the situation. Anything. And she does nothing. So right there, that should be a crime in its own. Once you're aware that there is a human being, and I'm not talking before all you fucking people that do the whole, it ain't a baby. This was a baby. At 32 weeks, you can be birthed into the world and go about your life. So this is a baby has a heartbeat at like 147 fucking beats per minute. This is a person. Has a gender, has fingers, has toes, legs, the whole shabil. It is a person. So once you're aware that you have a person inside of you, right there should be where you are held accountable for what happens. And yes, horrible things happen every day where stillborns, unfortunately, are born. Home births do not go well, and that does happen because they don't have the medical equipment or the medical teams there to prevent it from happening or whatever. So, I mean, it does happen. Tragically, it does. Tragically, it does. And so the state puts on their case or whatever. The jury, for some reason, 12 people in Ohio, they did their jobs. I don't know why I was about to talk shit. Because really, they just did their job. There really wasn't enough proof. The state could not prove whether or not the baby was ever took a gasp for air, took a breath. And technically, you can bury your family in the backyard if you go through the proper steps. But the proper steps are informing people that there was a birth, that happened. And then there's steps you can take. It's not your dog. You can't just toss it in the backyard and it's okay. That's not okay. Every death must be reported for the census. It's very important. I'm just kidding. Not for the census. Anywho. So, they argue the baby was small and dead upon arrival. And it goes back and forth. The jury obviously is like, well, we can't judge her for that. So she only gets convicted of abuse of a corpse and gets felony, like probation, and like 7 days jail time. And the whole time we go through this court process, the only time Mr. Johnson, the father of this child, was brought up was in the very first day. He talks and everything. That's it. They literally, he does not exist after that. The whole thing is Brooke. And that's it. Okay, no one brings up the fact that this poor boy found out that he was a father on the news. Found out that his baby was dead on the news. And that his baby was buried in the backyard like a dead puppy. Oh, it made me so mad. Oh, good God, it made me so mad. And the state had her bones the whole time. And so his mother gets up there and talks about the horrible, horrible existence they've been having ever since that this happened. They were robbed. This little selfish ass girl robbed them. And she even says, I would have taken that baby, no questions asked. She could have came, dropped it off, said, hey, it's yours, adios. Never would have called her again. Would have just taken the baby and went and raised it and been fine. But here she is, 2 years later, where the baby should be 2 years old, and she's not. They have to send her flowers in heaven, and like, it's just so sad. That's the only time this poor family is ever even considered. And then the judge does tell her, like, I hope you know, I think you're a vicious human being and a piece of poo. And if you would have done the right things by giving a shit about this child's life, it would have been here today. She should have gotten some sort of murder, involuntary, something. Because when you are in active labor, there's no, to me, you killed that baby, in my opinion. I'm sorry. And like I said, yes, it does happen. Unfortunately, it does. And maybe I just have a hard time believing it because there is no one, she is the only person, and this little girl is obviously troubled and a liar beyond all belief. But she's very, very troubled. Like, there is literally some psychotic shit going on with this little girl. She's crazy. But I don't even know. Like, you want people to believe that you go and you said the doctor does an ultrasound. Okay, he does not just check this baby's heartbeat or anything else. He does a quick once over. This baby is healthy. There is no reason why this baby should have died. All the doctors on the state side, and I know it's obviously the state side, testified to that fact, that there is no reason that they medically could see that this baby would not have been born healthy, and that if she would have gone back in the week that they told her to, they were going to do a in-depth ultrasound and everything else and figure out what was going on. And she did not do that. She never took the calls. She never went back. She acted like that day never happened. You went to prom in active labor. You go to a game in active labor. And then you pop out a baby. And then you give two different accounts of where you had this baby. First, it's in your bedroom, which I believe it was because they do the luminol spritz. And on her floor, there is kind of like a sad little pattern of what could have possibly might have been where the baby came. And then you tell the police that you were in the toilet. Dude, I was just so disgusted. And like the father's family never got any recognition. They never once referred to this baby as Baby Johnson or anything. Why? And they let her get away with it. She didn't get punished at all. She got like a week in jail. And that's it. That's her punishment. She'd not at all get punished for her crimes. And I really hope the people of Ohio never let her forget it. That she got away scot-free and that is not justice. And you tell the police that you think maybe you did. Maybe you hugged her too hard. And that's when she passed. Or whatever. I believe that she smothered that baby. To keep that baby quiet upon coming out, she had to do something. And the family, you want to know one of the arguments the family brought to court was, well, the dog didn't bark. Are you fucking playing? Because Lassie didn't fucking sound alert, that means the baby was dead because Lassie didn't bark. I don't know if the dog's name was Lassie, but come on. And then the dad on the stand, they ask him, did you know that cops can lie to you? And he's like, no, I trusted law enforcement. You're a grown-ass man. Okay? And you're trying to tell me that in your whole life, you've never heard that police can lie to you? Shut up. Shut up. You ain't that naive. Shut up. And then that's what they say about their daughter, too. They straight play it off like, oh, she's dumb as fuck. She don't know. She's a dumb little blonde girl. Sorry. Meanwhile, she works at a damn daycare, taking care of babies as old as 6 weeks old. And the cops ask her, when your baby came out, what'd your baby look like? And she's like, I was kind of actually pretty big. She didn't say, oh, I had a small itty bitty little baby that just came out like a turd. No. I had a big baby. Well, what'd your baby look like? It was white. Okay, Captain Obvious. Of course, it's white. Did the baby make a noise? Did it anything? And you're trying to tell me at 18 years old, when you've been in child care, that you do not know when babies come out, you need to clear their throat and clear their passageways and everything else to help them get that first breath of air. Whatever. Dude, whatever. Another disappointment, Ohio. Keep in mind, though, I did not go after this. It was given to me. But that's my opinion. She done killed that baby and buried it in the backyard. And then the judge makes her dad, like fucking pinky promise, that the parents, the father of this child, his family will be able to go to wherever they want to bury her. Ugh. God. How horrible. That poor man's family, his mother, himself, were never, ever given the acknowledgement that they deserved. That he was the father. and that his daughter was either born dead upon arrival or murdered because she blocked him. Are you serious? Just goes to show. Brooks, caca. But yeah, that's how I feel about that. So you guys, I've missed you so much. I had to just take like a break. We're going through the house buying process and everything else, and oh my god, it's torture. It's not fun. And like, I don't know. I just had to take a mental break. Take a break for a second. But we're back. And Kenny, honey, your episode will be the next one. I had to do this one because she sent it to me before I decided to go on a break without telling anybody. And so I did it. But yeah. So y'all tell me what you think this person did to that baby. Because I'm curious. How many people? And then I watched the 48 hours, and then literally the whole family did. The mom, I think, needs to look within, maybe, and maybe see that the way that she was parenting her daughter probably was not the best, and improve on it. I don't like bashing good parents. I don't think that's necessary. So it's fine. But I don't know. I think that little girl should have gotten in way more trouble. Way more. And if you want to, go watch the court hearings. And like I said, I watched the 48 hours things. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot. That's where I was. I watched the 48-hour episode on them. And when I watched the news conference for it, everybody's like, oh, when you watch this, your opinion will change. Nope. It didn't. At all. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Poor babies, man. Poor little babies. So sad. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. Watch the courts if you want to. Everybody else from Ohio, I don't not think that you guys are great people. But I would just, I don't even know what, I don't even have advice to give you. That's all I know. Ohio. And if you guys want me to tell everybody something positive about Ohio, tell me something positive about Ohio. I haven't been given anything positive yet. Alright. Follow me on Facebook at It Is What It Is, a True Crime Podcast. On YouTube at It Is What It Is, a True Crime Podcast. On Twitter, It Is What It Is 208. On Instagram, It Is What It Is Pod 208, because 208 is where I'm from. I love all of you. I'm glad we're back. And, maybe we'll label this season 2. Welcome. Bye, guys.